In this segment, I want to conclude my discussion of democratic aspects of the American Revolution and certain contradictions in the revolution. And then in later segments, I will of this class, I'll go on to talk about what happened after the American Revolution. The revolutionary leaders, often in class when we're all together, I pose the question, who were leaders of the American Revolution? And I encourage people to take a look at maybe coins that they might have, or dollar bills, or $10 bills, and if they have a $50 bill, that's cool. But in any event, the names that we generally come up with are George Washington, obviously, sometimes Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, definitely. On occasion, someone will remember the guy who, on the Declaration of Independence, was the first to sign, who had a big swirly signature. Put your John Hancock here means put your signature here. His name was John Hancock. Not as many people remember John Adams, but he was also an important one. And these were among the top leaders of the American Revolution. There were others, but this is a representative sampling. John Hancock was one of the richest men in the colonies, and another one of the richest men in the colonies was George Washington. So what did they do for a living? What did they do for a living? How did they make a living? How did Thomas Jefferson make a living? How did Benjamin Franklin make a living? How did John Adams make a living? And when we explore that, we find that, John Hancock was a rich merchant, who owned a fleet of sailing ships that engaged in the transatlantic trade that we've talked about before. We'll talk about it a little bit more this time. And the upper classes in the North were businessmen who were merchants. John Adams was a lawyer, and he made his living in large measure by representing people in the upper classes, merchants and other such. Benjamin Franklin, he was involved. He began in the printing trades, and he worked his way up to become a publisher. And in a way, he was like a businessman, a successful businessman. You could put him in the ranks of maybe small manufacturers. But the big shots in the North were merchants. And the fact that the British Parliament and the British King wanted to tax their items and set up all kinds of regulations of what they could and couldn't do, that insulted them and that made them angry. And they wanted to push back on that, do something about that. And they helped to mobilize other people, and I'll talk about that in a moment, who were not rich and who were not merchants. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were planters, were plantation owners, or farmers, rich farmers. And it's not like they were out working in the fields. They might have gone out in the fields to do something or another, but it was slaves who were doing the work in the fields, raising cash crops, big cash crops, tobacco, possibly wheat, and more cotton would become important in the Southern plantation economy. Eventually, cotton would become king in the plantation economy. We'll talk about that in a future segment of this course. But they were the top dogs in the South. So merchants and planters were indignant at the way that the British government was running roughshod, they felt, over their rights. And in both cases, if you take a look at this, the social structures, this is a minority of the population, but they are coming up against the most powerful, perhaps the most powerful government in the world, with the most powerful military in the world and navy and so on. And if they themselves, this small number of merchants and plantation owners, tried to do something about it, and they did try to do something about it, it wouldn't work. It didn't work. The British government just ran roughshod over them, the British ruling classes, the monarchy, the parliament. And the parliament was made up of lords in the House of Lords, but there were lords also in the House of Commons and rich commoners in the House of Commons. It's not like you had a democracy in England. It was a parliamentary monarchy. So the the king had a lot of power. Parliament had a lot of power. The king had to consult with them, but they represented a small number of people in Britain, the well-to-do, the rich. And in any event, they had a lot of muscle. They had a lot of muscle in terms of big military, so they didn't have to listen to merchants and planters from the colonies. And particularly as the merchants and planters, more and more of them concluded, why do we even need to be a colony of Britain? If we join together our colonies, we have the resources and the wherewithal to become our own country, to have our own economy, make our own decisions. But how to do that if you're up against such a powerful force as Britain, militarily powerful? You need people. You need masses of people to back you up. And that's what they attempted to do. They reached down to folks in the lower classes and said, this is our fight, yours and mine together. No taxation without representation, and our rights cannot be trampled on, and we all deserve a certain amount of respect, and so on and so forth. They needed that popular backup to give them more clout in what they were trying to accomplish. And Tom Paine's radicalism, radical ideas, which had filtered, it wasn't just from Tom Paine, it was from others as well, because a lot of the folks who were living in the colonies had been influenced by the English Revolution, ideas of the English Revolution. They were influenced by Christianity, and if you take a look at Christianity, there's a notion, well, we are all equal before God. And also, other radical notions embedded in Christianity. So in any event, there was a resonance to the kinds of ideas that Tom Paine was articulating. There was a resonance within the larger population. He was speaking the language and addressing the thoughts and feelings of lots of common people in the lower ranks of the social structure. And that relates to the Declaration of Independence. You've got the words, and there's videos also on the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that is, rights that are inherent in us, that cannot be taken away. They're part of us. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And governments are not legitimate unless they rule by the consent of the governed. And if we don't like what the government is doing, we have the right to challenge it. We have the right to change it. We have the right to overthrow it and replace it with a government more to our liking. That's the logic of the Declaration of Independence. Now, there were contradictions in that declaration that come up in the videos that I've asked you to watch. For example, in the one video about the writing of the Declaration of Independence, Benjamin Franklin points out, well, slavery, we're talking about, we don't want to be slaves to the king, but there's actual slavery. And actually, Thomas Jefferson put in some kind of thing of, the king, he's responsible for slavery. And Franklin points out, well, that's not all there is to it. And are you talking about the end of slavery? And Jefferson wasn't quite ready to go that far. There's a musical, 1776, and I included a little song from the musical, Molasses to Rum to Slaves, that gives some of the argument of the slave owners who were in the Continental Congress and said they would not sign the Declaration of Independence if it had that anti-slavery stuff in there. And he refers to the triangular trade across the Atlantic that Boston merchants were involved in. So they were implicated in the slave trade very definitely, as was the author of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. And that's indicated in the little clip on the duality of Jefferson. I think at the end of the Liberty video, there is reference to this contradiction and some, I think, intelligent discussion of the contradiction, which the contradiction was definitely there. It didn't obliterate the power of the democratic message within this key revolutionary document, but also embedded in the founding of our republic was this contradiction, and we'll be looking at that more soon.